welcome back to my channel. Today we have the first of many, and for me, much anticipated series, character breakdowns. Now when I say that, I mean I'm going to go step by step, explain to you about my characters, how they came to be, the difficulties I had creating them, some of my best moments while I've had them, some of the worst moments while I've had them, you know, what are the hardest parts of writing them, all that jazz is what we're going to cover in these videos. And first up is my OG original character, Gracelyn Carter O'Neill. Not a lot of people know that that's her full name because she goes by Grace. But it is. Her full name is Gracelyn, because I wanted her to have just a slightly different identity from the character in the show, which we will get to. But to begin, I will put up here my IMVU avatar shot of Grace, so you have a general idea of what she looks like. Gracie has been around since, sweet mother of gods, the episode she was created in. Gracie was not an original idea, but we'll get to that. Well, not a completely original idea, I should say. She is part of the Stargate franchise. The TV franchise, not the, well, you know, the 1997 on franchise, not the movie that came before. For those that don't know the Stargate universe, basically, I'm reading off my blog here because it took me forever to word this correctly. Basically, it's a show where people travel through an alien device called a Stargate to visit planets across space. The gate forms a wormhole between two points and gets you there nearly instantly. Literally, it takes seconds. It deconstructs you and then reconstructs you on the other side of the wormhole. Gracie's origin, she came about in an episode in season 7 entitled With Her Name. Grace, not Gracie. You'll notice I call her Gracie a lot, but that's just me. When one of the major characters, Major Samantha Carter, was trapped on the Earth spaceship Prometheus and suffered a concussion. She was trapped by herself. She didn't know what was, you know, she had no communications, nothing, and she was hallucinating the members of her team and this little girl who had dirty blonde hair and bright blue eyes and the attention span that reminded us all of a certain colonel that has been the other half of the main romantic pairing since the inception of the show. Not that they ever actually gave it to us, but that's a whole nother bone I'll pick in another video. It was, for the Sam and Jack shippers, it was very easy to tell that this little girl was Sam's idea of what her and Jack's child would be like. She totally was. She was like a perfect combination of Sam and Jack. She had Sam's brains, but Jack's attention span. Her looks were like, I mean, I know it was all Sasha's, if you're familiar with Pretty Little Liars, the one who played Alice, and she played Grace. I know it was all her, you know, genetic looks and everything, but they picked the perfect actress to play Gracie. It was just the way they created her. There was no way she was not Sam and Jack's child. I'm sorry, there was just no way. The writers can deny it. I don't know if they actually have, but they can deny it if they want to, but that was Sam's idea of what her and Jack's child would look like. So, with Grace, creating her, I took what they gave us in that episode, this child who looked and sounded like Sam and Jack, and I brought it back to the beginning of the show. What would it be like, what would the show have been like if Sam and Jack had already been together when the show started and already had Grace? What would Grace's life be like? What would change in the show or go differently in the show if they had this little girl they had to worry about? Hint, not a lot. They just had a very angry child to deal with when they got home. But I didn't change her looks, as you can tell by the pictures. I did not change her looks. I didn't really, you know, I didn't change a lot of who she is. The only thing I played with was her personality, because obviously I had to write her younger and then older. I actually started at the end of season 7 with the season 7 finale, because it was a good emotional episode to thrust Gracie into the world. I really have to rewrite that, though. Actually, there's a lot of Grace I have to rewrite, because looking back on it now, it makes me cringe. But I started at the end of season 7, and then I went backwards, choosing select episodes to write Grace for that would really develop her and everything. And as soon as I went back as far as I could, I shot back to the beginning of season 8, and I went from there. Again, choosing select episodes that I thought would fit Grace best, where I thought she would work in the best. The easiest part about writing Grace, though, is her sarcasm, because even in the episode where we're introduced to her, or to the idea of her, she has her father's sarcasm, and it is amazing. She's got Jack's wit, she's got Sam's inability to take crap from anyone, and that's a lot like who I am, so that's what makes writing Grace so easy, because it's just like, okay, in this situation, what would I do? What would I say? And, you know, the answers didn't always keep Grace out of trouble or out of danger, but, you know, she wouldn't be Sam and Jack's daughter if it did. It did get across just how much she was like her parents, and how much you didn't want to mess with her, and how screwed you were if you did. Hardest part about writing Grace, though, is her relationship with Jack. She has such a strong father-daughter relationship with him. A lot of my characters do. Actually, the majority of my characters do. They pretty much all have strong father-child relationships. But I don't. So while most of my writing is coming from things I know and things I've experienced or learned, that is not one of them. I have not spoken to my father in 6 years. And before that, it was intermittent at best. And had been since he left when I was 3. There were good times, obviously, few and far between, but they were there. But not enough for me to fully be able to write the bond that Grace has with Jack. So for that, I was really just shooting in the dark and making it up as I went along, because I really didn't know what I was doing with it. But honestly, I think given the way that I wrote Grace and Jack, it's almost like that's what, if I had been able to choose the type of relationship I had with my father, that's what I would have wanted. That loving, attentive, close bond. It's pretty much what I have with my mom, is what if I had been able to choose the type of relationship I have with my dad, it would be the same thing. Unfortunately, that's not the type of person my father is. So, when it comes to writing Grace, though, I have so many good memories of writing her. She's such a fun character to write, simply because of how much she is like her father, and how much fun Jack is in the show. So, honestly, one of my absolute favorite memories of writing with Grace is, I can't remember what the episode is. I'll look it up and I'll flash it across the screen here. Grace is out and about with her father. They're on Earth. It's one of the few episodes that take place on Earth completely. And they're out and about together, and, you know, he reminds her while he's in the store, you know, it's like, I think she's like 8 or 9 at this time. He reminds her, you know, keep an eye out. If anything happens, you know, yell, whatever, he'll come. She gets snuck up on by former Colonel Harry Mayborn, who I actually just learned his first name is Harold, and it made me laugh so much. She gets snuck up on by Mayborn, and her reaction is to scream and fling her truck door, her door open on the side of the truck, which smacks into Mayborn and knocks him flat on his ass onto the ground. And he's just kind of laying there when Jack comes back and just, you know, smirks down at him, and it was such a perfect reaction to it, causing Mayborn physical pain, because, you know, Jack is constantly threatening to shoot him. And even Mayborn admits he should have known better than to sneak up on the child of Jack O'Neill. But, you know, you have all these good memories, you have all these amazing memories. You do also have the bad ones, you know, with those scenes where you know it's going to be emotional and you know it's going to hurt to write it, but you've got to do it anyway because it fits in with the story. For me, it is the death of Grace's grandfathers. Sam's dad, Jacob Carter, and then the base commander who becomes a second grandfather to her, General George Hammond. Both canon, Jacobs was at the end of season 8. General Hammonds was after the show ended, and it was at the end of Stargate Atlantis, the first spinoff. And that was because the actor passed away. So Jacob's death, I normally work around deaths and don't really write them in. I don't like acknowledging them. I don't like giving into the fact that they happen. My Harry Potter series is a great example of that. But Jacob dying, it was a monumental moment within the series for Sam and Jack, and I couldn't ignore it. And as much as it hurt to have Jacob die and have Grace go through that, it was needed. It was hard to write because Jacob's death is stretched out over the episodes. So, you've got this little girl, she's 11 years old, so much more mature than than her age actually suggests. And she has to go through the horror of watching her grandfather die and know there's nothing she can do. But she does get through it, obviously. The second death, General Hammonds, was hard because I hadn't quite yet processed that the actor was dead. When I came across the time to fit this in, and Grace was already going through a lot of emotional crap in the story at the time when it was time to fit this in. So it made it that much harder because his death was sudden, whereas with Jacob's it was drawn out, but George's was sudden because they couldn't exactly draw it out because the actor was gone. So it made it harder because I had to do the, suddenness, the impact of not having time to prepare for something like that. It took the shock and the pain I felt over the actor dying. I know it's ridiculous to get attached to actors like this, but he was just such a pivotal part of my growing up. But taking that and channeling it into Grace just made it that much more emotional and more connecting to the event in the episode. I am not ashamed to admit, because you can see I'm kind of getting choked up here talking about it, I cried while writing both those scenes, both of those deaths. Not ashamed. One, because of my love for the characters, and also because of my love for my own grandfather, my mom's dad. My father's dad passed away and when I was in 5th grade, and I didn't actually know him very well. It still hurt, but I didn't know him very well. But my mom's dad has been around my entire life. So the idea of losing him is something I can't come to terms with, even at almost 28 years old. I can't wrap my head around a time when he's not going to be around, and I don't want to. I don't ever want to have to deal with that, even though I know at some point in my life I'm going to. And having Grace deal with it when she's so much younger than I am now, it was very, very difficult. But it also made it better. The best way I can think of is it made it better. Having that emotional connection of my own made it better. So when I first created Grace, I just wanted to take the idea of her existing from the beginning and see where it could go, see what would happen. And she just became a whole person on her own. She was the very first character I had. She was the very first character where the idea of, okay, this is a person all of their own. They may only be in my head and in my writing, but they are their own person. They will do what they want. What I want to write 9 times out of 10 doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It does not matter. Because they will write what they want. She goes off the grid all the time. She has snarked to people she shouldn't have. She has gotten physical with people she shouldn't have. She's gotten herself into situations where it's like, Grace, why? Situations where even her parents, who get into the worst kind of trouble, would be like, sweetheart, what were you thinking? But at the same time, it's just, having her has been such a fun ride, and as of right now, I don't see an end for Grace in sight. I have so many chapters I want to rewrite and make them better. I have episodes that I didn't do, because like I said, I wrote select episodes that I thought would work well for Grace, but now looking back, I'm like, every episode would work well for, well, not every episode, but the majority of episodes would work well for Grace. And I want to go back and I want to write them. And I just have so much more that I want to do for her. I honestly thought when the Stargate franchise ended with Stargate Universe that Gracie was going to come to an end. But I don't see her taking her final bow anytime soon, because she's just Grace, and I just, there's nothing more I can say to that. She's Grace, and she will go on forever. That is my character breakdown for Grace. It was longer than I planned for it to be, a little bit more emotional than I planned for it to be. When I was writing it, it wasn't this bad, but now that I'm saying it all out loud, it's like, oh, right, I have emotions. For any of you that are interested in reading Grace's stories, I will link the main one down below. If you want to read more than that, just go to my fanfiction.net profile, which will also be linked below. And all you have to do is type in Grace, or all you have to do is look for any Stargate stories in my profile, you know, under the name of Grace. They all start with her first name. And you will have fun with that. I hope you guys enjoyed the first of what I hope to be many character breakdown videos. I had a lot of fun writing Grace's. I can't wait to write the next one. Make sure to give the video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Write down in the comments below, if you are of the Stargate fandom, who your favorite pairing is, because you can't be part of the fandom and not like pairings. I mean, you just can't. I'm sorry. Maybe you can, but clearly you're inhuman. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you get a notification every time I upload. And I will see you guys in next week's video.